Is Satan actually Baal? Does many people know that he lives in the Kaaba and people worshipped him unknowingly? Find out in this video. In the ancient lands of Canaan, long before the kingdom of Israel rose to power, a name echoed across mountains, valleys, and cities. That name was Baal, a god of storms, rain, and fertile lands. To the people who lived in those ancient times, Baal was more than a name. He was power, fear, and authority embodied. From the tallest king to the simplest farmer, all bowed, sacrificed, and prayed to him, hoping for his favor. Yet, as magnificent and commanding as he appeared, Baal's worship came at a heavy cost. The Canaanites believed that Baal controlled the very elements themselves. Storms, thunder, and rain were his weapons. Fertility of the land, his gift. When the skies darkened and the winds roared, they saw the hand of Baal moving through the heavens. If the rain failed, crops withered, and famine struck, it was because Baal had turned his anger upon them, or worse, they had failed to honor him properly. Baal's temples were grand, often built on high places, where his worshippers could feel closer to the storms he commanded. People brought offerings of grain, animals, and even sacrifices of fire, hoping to secure his favor. The more powerful a city or a king, the more elaborate the rituals. Every sacrifice, every chant, every prayer was meant to appease a god whose temperament could bring either life-giving rain or devastating drought. But Baal was not just a distant deity to the people of Canaan. He shaped their politics, their wars, and even their daily lives. Kings claimed his blessing to assert authority, while ordinary villagers lived in quiet fear that his wrath might strike them at any moment. Fear and faith, devotion and dread, these emotions intertwined, binding the people to the idol's power. And yet, this devotion was built on a lie, a false hope that a created being could command the forces of the universe. Throughout history, Baal became a symbol of human fascination with power. His image adorned walls and altars. Songs were sung in his honor. Festivals celebrated his might. And yet, behind every worshipper's hope lay a subtle danger, a danger that the people were slowly turning away from the true guidance of God, which prophets had been sent to deliver. In the midst of Baal's towering influence, God sent his prophets. One such prophet, known in Islamic tradition as Ilyas, rose to confront the idol worshippers. He reminded the people of the one true God, the creator of the heavens, the earth, the winds, and the rain. Where Baal was a man-made idol, limited and powerless, Allah is infinite, all-knowing, and unshakable. The contrast could not have been clearer. The fleeting might of a carved statue versus the eternal power of the Creator. But Baal's worship was not just a story of the past. It was a lesson, a warning for every generation. Humanity has always been drawn to what appears powerful, tangible, and near. False gods are tempting because they promise immediate results: rain for the crops, protection from enemies, wealth, or fame. Yet Islam teaches us that true power belongs to Allah alone. Every idol, every false hope, every storm god, like Baal, is powerless in the face of the Creator. So why does Baal matter to us today? Because the story of Baal is not just a story of ancient Canaan, it is a mirror reflecting the human heart. How often do we turn to what we can see and touch for guidance, instead of to the one who controls the heavens and the earth? How often do we seek solutions in wealth, fame, or human authority, rather than in faith and obedience to Allah? As we explore the tale of Baal in the coming chapters, remember this: he was mighty in appearance, feared by men, and worshipped across nations. Yet, in the eyes of God, Baal was nothing more than a symbol of human misguidance. The prophets rose, the storms passed, and the truth of the one true God endured. The story begins with awe and fear, but it ends with clarity and guidance, a reminder that faith must rest in what is eternal, not what is temporary. In the next part, we will dive into how Baal's presence shaped the people of Israel, and how prophets like Ilyas and Elijah challenged the mightiest storms of human devotion. But for now, let this truth settle in your heart. No storm, no God, no idol, no power created by man can stand against the one true God, Allah, the creator of all things. As the story of Baal continues, we move from the storms and mountains of Canaan to the heart of the Israelite people. The Israelites were chosen by God to follow his guidance, yet even they were not immune to the temptations surrounding them. Baal, the god of storms and fertility, was not only powerful in appearance, he was persuasive. Kings and villagers alike were drawn to his promises of rain, prosperity, and victory. And it was here, among the people of Israel, that Baal's influence became a test of faith. The Bible records how Israel frequently fell into the worship of Baal. Despite witnessing God's miracles, the people were tempted by the tangible power of a deity they could see and touch. They built altars, offered sacrifices, and even abandoned the teachings of the prophets sent to guide them. Each act of devotion to Baal was a turning away from the one true God, a dangerous path that brought divine disapproval and warning. One of the most dramatic confrontations came through the prophet Elijah. He challenged the people of Israel to decide whom they would serve: Baal, the god of storms, or Yahweh, the living God who had created the heavens and the earth. On Mount Carmel, Elijah called upon the people to witness a test. 2 altars stood side by side, one for Baal, adorned with offerings, and one for God, simple and bare. The question was clear: which God could answer by fire? The priests of Baal cried out, danced, and performed their elaborate rituals all day. They shouted for their God, hoping to see a sign, but nothing came. No fire descended, no storm rumbled in their favor, no answer came from the idol. And then Elijah prayed not to a carved statue, but to the Creator himself. A sudden fire fell from the heavens, consuming the offering and the altar. The people witnessed the undeniable power of God. Baal, once mighty in the eyes of men, had proven powerless. This moment was more than a dramatic display. It was a lesson for all generations. Idols, no matter how revered or feared, are powerless. The god of storms, whom so many had trusted to control their lives, could not act on his own. Human hands had carved him. Human minds had imagined his power. True authority belongs only to the creator of all things, Allah in Islamic understanding, Yahweh in the biblical context. Islam shares a similar understanding of this story. Although the Quran does not name Baal specifically, it emphasizes the same principle. Idol worship is misguided and powerless. Prophets like Ilyas were sent to remind people that only God has the authority to control the skies, the rain, and the forces of nature. Just as Elijah confronted Baal in Israel, Ilyas confronted the worshippers of false gods in Canaan, guiding them toward monotheism and the truth of divine power. The confrontation on Mount Carmel also teaches an important lesson about faith and courage. Elijah stood alone against a society enthralled by false idols, yet his trust in God never wavered. He did not rely on human wisdom or the apparent power of Baal. Instead, he placed his faith fully in the one true God. This is a principle echoed in Islam. True guidance comes from trusting in Allah, not in created things or temporary powers. Throughout history, Baal's presence tested the people of Israel and humanity as a whole. He was a symbol of temptation, a god of what seemed powerful and immediate, but ultimately hollow and powerless. By studying these events, we see that the struggle between idol worship and devotion to God is not just historical, it is a reflection of the human heart. People are drawn to what seems real and strong, yet Allah teaches that the only true power lies with Him, unseen but absolute. In 24, Baal's story also reminds us that God provides signs to guide His people. The fire on Mount Carmel was not only proof of God's power, it was a demonstration of divine mercy, calling people back from the worship of false gods. In Islam, signs from Allah, be it in nature, life, or revelation, serve the same purpose: to awaken hearts to truth and encourage humanity to turn away from misguidance. So, the biblical record of Baal is more than a tale of conflict and storms. It is a timeless lesson. When faced with false power, we must remember to place our faith in the Creator, not in the fleeting idols of this world. The story of Baal challenges us to question whom or what we truly serve, and to embrace the eternal truth that God alone commands the heavens, the earth, and every heart. From the mountains of Canaan and the dramatic fire on Mount Carmel, the story now turns to a deeper and broader truth: how Islam understands idols like Baal, and why the message against false gods is universal. In Islam, Baal is not mentioned by name in the Quran, yet his story lives on through a powerful and unchanging principle that no being, no force of nature, and no created thing deserves worship except Allah alone. Islam teaches that every prophet who was sent to humanity carried the same message at its core: worship the one true God and reject all false gods. From Adam to Noah, from Abraham to Moses, from Jesus to Muhammad, peace be upon them all, their call was one. Though their peoples differed, their mission was the same: to pull humanity away from idols and return them to pure faith in the Creator. In this chain of divine guidance stands the prophet Ilyas, known in the Bible as Elijah. In Islamic tradition, Ilyas was sent to a people who had fallen deeply into idol worship. They had turned toward false gods, gods of stone, storm, and desire, and forgotten the one who created the sky itself. Allah sent Ilyas to warn them, to remind them that rain does not fall by the command of Baal, and storms do not move by the will of idols. Everything in the universe moves by the command of Allah alone. The Quran reminds us that idols cannot see, cannot hear, cannot benefit, and cannot harm, yet people still cling to them. Why? Because idols promise control. They promise quick answers. They promise power that feels close and visible. Baal became a symbol of this illusion. People believed he controlled the rain because rain was essential to survival. They tied their fear, their hope, and their future to what they could see instead of to the unseen Creator. Islam breaks this illusion completely. It teaches that rain falls by Allah's mercy, not by the anger or pleasure of any idol. Crops grow by His decree. Life and death move by His command. When people turned to Baal, they were not just choosing a different god, they were replacing trust in the Creator with trust in creation. And this, in Islam, is the greatest spiritual injustice: shirk, associating partners with Allah. Shirk is not only bowing to a statue, it is placing absolute trust, fear, or reliance in anything other than Allah. Baal was one form of shirk in ancient times, but Islam teaches that every generation has its own Baal. Today, idols may not always be carved from stone. They may be wealth, power, fame, influence, or human authority, things that promise security but ultimately control nothing. This is why the story of Baal is not merely historical in Islam, it is timeless. It reveals a pattern of the human heart. When people are afraid, they seek something to hold on to. When they feel powerless, they search for visible power. But Islam redirects the heart away from the visible and toward the eternal. Allah is unseen, yet His signs surround us in the sky, in the wind, in the rain, in the beating of the human heart. The prophet Ilyas, like all prophets in Islam, did not come with worldly power. He came with truth. He did not threaten with armies, but with accountability before God. His message was simple, yet heavy with meaning. Turn back to Allah. Leave what you worship besides Him. The one who created the heavens is more worthy of your fear than any idol made by your own hands. Islam teaches that guidance is always available, but acceptance is a choice. Some hearts soften, others resist. Some surrender to truth, others cling to illusion. Baal's story within the Islamic worldview is a reminder that false gods rise easily because they appeal to human weakness, but they fall just as easily when confronted with divine truth. Thus, in Islam, Baal is not remembered as a powerful god, but as a powerful deception, one that tested a people, challenged prophets, and revealed a lesson for all time. That true power does not roar in thunder or stand in stone. True power belongs only to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Nomad. The story of Baal does not end with the fall of an idol or the silence of false priests. Its true ending lives within the human heart. Across centuries, kingdoms have vanished, temples have crumbled, and storm gods have faded into history. But the struggle Baal represents remains as alive today as it was in ancient Canaan. Baal was never just a statue of stone. He was the embodiment of a human weakness, the desire to control the uncontrollable. Rain meant life, drought meant death. And so the people bowed to what they believed could give them survival. But they confused the means with the master. They mistook the creation for the creator. And this mistake, Islam teaches, is the root of every spiritual downfall. The people of Baal's time were not foolish. They were afraid. Fear drove them to attach power to what they could see. And the same fear lives in the modern world. Only our idols have changed shape. Today, few people bow before storm gods, yet many bow before wealth, status, fame, influence, and control. These are the modern Baals that demand time, loyalty, and even moral compromise. The lesson is clear. Every age creates its own Baal. When people trust money more than God, money becomes their Baal. When power becomes more important than truth, power becomes their Baal. When approval from people becomes more important than approval from Allah, society itself becomes an idol. From Baal's story, Islam teaches us that false gods promise much, but deliver nothing lasting. Baal promised rain, but could not command a single cloud. He promised fertility, but could not give life to a single seed. He promised protection, but could not protect even his own image from destruction. Every false god has this same nature, impressive in illusion, empty in reality. Another powerful lesson from Baal's story is the danger of following the crowd. Many who worshipped Baal did so not because they were convinced, but because everyone else was doing it. Kings endorsed it. Priests defended it. Society normalized it. Truth became lonely, while falsehood became popular. And this remains one of the greatest tests of faith even today. Islam teaches that truth is not measured by numbers. Even if the whole world turns away, the truth remains unchanged. Ilyas stood alone against Baal's worshippers, not because he was strong in numbers, but because he was strong in certainty. This teaches an eternal principle. Faith is not about fitting in. It is about standing firm. Baal's story also teaches patience. Falsehood often seems powerful at first. It builds grand temples. It gathers crowds. It silences opposition. But deception cannot last forever. When truth finally confronts it, falsehood collapses quickly, just as Baal collapsed when fire answered the call of the true God. Another lesson is accountability. The people were not punished simply for ignorance. They were warned first. Prophets were sent. Signs were shown. Time was given to repent. Islam teaches that Allah is most merciful, but mercy does not cancel responsibility. When humans persist in falsehood after clear guidance, they bear the consequences of their choices. And finally, Baal's story teaches one of the deepest truths of faith, that nothing in creation deserves the place of the Creator. When anything, whether idol, person, system, or desire, takes the position of Allah in the heart, imbalance begins. Spiritual blindness follows. But when the heart returns to Allah alone, clarity, peace, and purpose return with it. The fall of Baal was not just the fall of a god, it was the exposure of a lie that had ruled human fear. And every time a person turns away from false dependence and back to Allah, the same victory is repeated in the heart. And so, when the storms have passed, when the thunder no longer roars, when the temples have crumbled and the idols lie buried beneath centuries of dust, only one truth remains standing. Baal is gone. His priests are forgotten. His name is now only a shadow in history. But the lesson he left behind still walks among the living. Once, Baal was feared as the master of the skies. Once, kings trembled before his statues. Once, entire nations believed their lives were held in his silent hands. Yet, where is his power now? Where are his storms? Where is his voice? History answers with silence. Because every false god, no matter how mighty it appears, carries within it the seed of its own destruction. The rise and fall of Baal reveals one of the deepest laws of existence, that false power can rule for a moment, but truth rules forever. Baal ruled through fear. Allah rules through reality. Baal demanded sacrifices to sustain an illusion. Allah gives without needing anything in return. One depended on human belief to survive. The other existed before belief itself. And now the story turns toward us. Not toward ancient priests, not toward forgotten kings, but toward the living heart. Because every generation stands at the same crossroads as the people of Baal. Every life must choose where its trust will rest. What will you depend on when control disappears? What will you turn to when your strength fails? What will stand with you when everything you trusted begins to collapse? In Baal's time, they trusted storms. Today, many trust money. In Baal's time, they trusted idols. Today, many trust systems, people, influence, status, or themselves. The shape of the idol changes, but the human need for control remains the same. Islam teaches that anything trusted more than Allah becomes an idol, whether it is carved from stone or built in the heart. Yet Allah did not create humanity to live in fear of false powers. He created humanity to live in certainty of divine care. This is why prophets were sent not only to tear down idols of stone, but to tear down the idols of dependence, pride, and illusion within the soul. Ilyas stood against Baal, not merely to defeat a god, but to awaken hearts from spiritual sleep. And here is the greatest mercy in the entire story. Even after years of worshiping Baal, the door of return was never closed. The people were warned, reminded, tested, and invited back to the truth. This is the way of Allah with every soul. No matter how long a person bows to the wrong thing, repentance is always closer than destruction. Baal offered rain without mercy. Allah sends rain with mercy. Baal demanded blood to prove loyalty. Allah accepts even a single tear of sincerity. Baal ruled through terror. Allah governs through justice and compassion. One enslaved the heart, the other frees it.